Let's make a polo shirt dress. I've been thinking about this for a while. I love the look of the polo shirts, but I would love a polo dress, full length, almost to the ankles. Not quite, maybe just below the knee. Not quite hitting the ankle, but way below the knee, kind of, in the middle there. And I have the perfect fabric for it. This same dark green, 100% cotton pique jersey. Pique is the traditional fabric used for polo shirts. If you look closely, you will see this tiny waffle pattern, and it doesn't only add a bit of more visual interest to the garment, it also has a function. It makes the fabric extra breathable, which is fantastic for the hotter summer days. Pique is also extremely sweat forgiving, so even if you do sweat, it will dry out really fast. And the dress I have in my head is pretty simple. It's basically a longer t-shirt dress with a beautiful polo neck with a collar. I want there to be space between my body and the dress. I generally don't wear anything skin tight, maybe only a tank top. Two simple reasons for that. First, it's just not my vibe. And secondly, loose fitted garments keep you cooler in the heat. We've moved to Portugal from the UK without any summer clothes, and this season I'm working on creating a brand new wardrobe designed for this new climate. I haven't lived in the heat for an extended periods of time, so I actually have no idea what works for me, what doesn't, what I like to wear and what doesn't feel as nice. It's a journey. I don't have the answers, but I'm really curious to find out what do I love to wear in a hot climate. The general idea for this period of creating clothes is to make it as simple as possible. I don't want to make anything that takes longer than a day from start to finish. And today I'll show you how to design a very simple t-shirt dress with a comfortable short sleeve, and how to make a polo neckline with a collar so that you understand it once and for all. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Liza Bennett. I'm co-founder of Arkdefo, designer and educator. I have changed my relationship with my non-standard body with the help of custom-made clothes. And I made it my mission to help other women feel good in their bodies with the clothes that fit just right. We run an online clothes making school where we teach you how to turn your measurements into custom pattern blocks. Once you crack this code, you will know how to design any sewing pattern for any garment you want. And it will always fit you because it has you in it from the start. We also include a complimentary style guide with all our premium packages so that you can learn and understand what garment designs work best for your body type and figure out what is your body type, what fabrics and designs complement your natural shape and complexion. I'll leave the link below this video. Today's dress is based on the blocks from our advanced pattern drafting course tailored tops. I am cheating. I'm not making a brand new pattern. Instead, I'll use the one that I already made for a winter jersey dress, and it works great. It's the same pattern I used to make this sleeveless relaxed summer dress. Once you have the pattern that works, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If I know that it works for me and I love the fit, I'll be using it again and again. But I do want to show you how simple and straightforward it is to turn a basic block into a dress pattern. These are the miniature blocks. They're 60% scale of my original bodice blocks. They are small enough to make it much easier to film, yet big enough to see all the details. I just multiplied all my measurements by 0.6 and drew the new blocks same way I would the full-size ones. Also, the blocks that I use for the actual dress have 20% ease. What is ease? This is extra measurement that I am adding to my entire pattern to allow me to move. Very often when working with knit fabrics, you would use negative ease. So you reduce the measurements because you want the fabric to stretch around your body and be figure hugging. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm doing the opposite. I'm adding 20 centimeters around my horizontal measurement. Mainly to be for my chest circumference, for my waist, for my hips. So kind of on each side, I'm adding about this much. And this creates that nice extra space between the garment and myself. In super simple words, the ease is the way your garment fits you. And I am a huge fan of relaxed fit, oversized garments, so the majority of my garments will have really big ease added to them. And in terms of blocks, I will have different blocks for different ease. You design it once and then you don't have to think about it ever again. You just decide, okay, today I want to make tighter fitted garment or looser fitted garment, and you take the block that you have and make a pattern based on it. Very simple. When it comes to designing the front and back for the dress, it's the exact same principle. I just decide on the length and then add a bit of extra space to the waistline. It's not quite an A line from the armpit. There is a little bit of cinching at the waist, but very little. As for the sleeve, in most of my garments, I'll change the sleeve shape for more comfort. The original sleeve block will be designed individually for different bodice blocks. So if I have bodice blocks with, say, 10 centimeter ease, I will have a sleeve for that block. If I have a bodice block with 40 centimeter ease, I will have a sleeve for that block. If I'm making the fit looser, I also want to make the sleeves larger, make them also loose around my arms. So you always think about proportion. The larger the garment, the larger you want the armholes, the larger you want the sleeve. And the other way around, if you're making something super skin tight, then you want to reduce the ease and you want to make the sleeves tighter. The one thing I don't like in the standard sleeve block is that the cap is very high. And the higher the cap of the sleeve, the more restriction you will have in the movement. It would usually be used in more tailored wear, which I don't like wearing. I love comfort. I love moving. So what I do, I adjust my sleeve blocks to suit my lifestyle, my preferences. How do I change it? I first copy the sleeve block as it is, and then I draw this kind of a fringe shape and cut it like this, and then spread it and either redraw or glue or tape to a new piece of paper. And watch carefully, the shape of the sleeve curve has changed, but the length hasn't. It remained the same. But what it does to a sleeve, it makes it much more comfortable to wear. It also becomes a little bit wider too. That's basically a classic t-shirt sleeve. And that's it. That's the dress pattern done. It takes literal minutes once you have your blocks. Now let me explain how to make this polo neck with the collar. You can apply it to any garment you want. It can be a t-shirt, can be a dress, can be a sleeveless top. Anything you like. It's not part of the pattern, it's the detail that you can add to any garment you like, right? So the base of the pattern is your garment, and this is just detailing. And I won't be showing you this on the actual dress because you won't see anything. It's really difficult to understand how to do the steps when you use the same fabric. Instead, I'll make an ugly mini version with bright colors where everything is really easy to follow. By the way, if there is some bit that you've never done before, this way is a great exercise to try new technique out. You don't have to try it for the first time on the actual garment that you are making. You just need a little piece of the garment. For example, you're trying a new neckline. You don't need an entire dress. You just need a neckline. And if you want to try to sew those plackets, you don't even need a neckline. Just a simple, small, rectangular piece of fabric will be enough for you to understand the logic behind it, how it's folding, where you're stitching it, and to practice. Practice on small pieces. Don't practice on the garment if you're doing something for the first time, because that is the fastest route to disappointment. If you don't have experience yet, you want to gain it. How do you gain it? By practicing. And to practice, you don't need a garment. You need the part of the garment. Yellow here will be the garment. Then I'm using electric orange and neon green for the plackets. And a few things I've already done is this tiny iron-on interfacing rectangular on the wrong side of the garment to keep the fabric together when it comes to cutting, and also to use it as an indicator for the wrong side of the garment because it's just a block color. And I also interfaced the placket details. Now the most important lesson I want you to learn here is that there are no rules on the size of the placket. You decide everything. Quite often I see those tutorials popping up on social media saying, make it 2.5 centimeters, make it 10 centimeters. You make it what you want it to be. It doesn't have to be any specific measurement, okay? For this example, I'm making up measurements as I go. They are not a standard. They're just out of my head. What I think will look visually good in this case, that's it. For the length of this opening, today I'm choosing 12 centimeters simply because when I put that iron-on interfacing bit on it, it measured as 12 centimeters. That's all. So I'm like, okay, this vertical line will be 12 centimeters. Now, the size of the placket, again, can be anything. Usually when it comes to polo necks, I would say it's around 2.5–5 centimeters, 1–2 inches. But you can make it bigger. Maybe you're working on really big oversized sweatshirt and you want a 10 centimeter really wide placket. Go for it. Same principle. Once you understand the principles, you don't need instructions. All the numbers I'm using today are just for demonstration. Use the measurements that you think work the best for your projects. I'll make my plackets 3 centimeter wide, and then I'll also add 1 centimeter seam allowance. And because this detail is folded, the total width of it will be 8 centimeters. And it's exactly the same for each side. Lengthwise, it needs to be a little bit longer than the central line I drew on the garment. So here I had 12 centimeter line on the front detail, and I'm making my plackets, I don't know, 13 centimeters. Choose the length you want for the opening and add a couple of centimeters, an inch, to the placket. Now you have decided on the width of the placket excluding seam allowance, yeah? This exact same number you need to draw at the bottom of this vertical line. So whatever the number is, you divide it by 2 and you measure half on each side. Half to the left, half to the right. So in my case it was 3 centimeters. I divide 3 centimeters by 2 and I'm marking 1.5 centimeter one side, 1.5 another. Now before stitching my plackets, I quickly iron them. I just fold them in half and fold in one of the seam allowances too. All of this is happening on the right side. Remember, the wrong side is indicated by that little rectangular thingy. And now I need to align these plackets along the center. But what's the alignment? In my case, the placket needs to be stitched at 1.5 centimeters away from the center front line. It would be much easier actually if I made the seam allowances 1.5 centimeter, then I could have just aligned both details along the center. But here I'll just draw another vertical line 5 millimeters away from the middle to align the edge of the placket so that I can sew them precisely on my 1.5 centimeter distance. I go ahead to stitch both details until that horizontal point, which was 12 centimeters in my case, and iron. I won't be showing all the steps, but after every single seam, you iron it. Next thing I want to do, about 1 centimeter away from my little horizontal line, I'm marking a point, and from this point, I'm drawing 2 diagonal lines from this point towards the bottoms of my stitches. And I cut along the center front line and then into those corners. And here I can also right away cut off that extra 5 millimeters to reduce the bulk in the future. I'm turning my placket details to the wrong side again. Press them nicely, they need to align. And then I go back to the right side and fold in that triangular, so it's also now on the wrong side. And now I go ahead and stitch together the bottoms of the placket details and the triangular. And after that, overlock or zigzag stitch the ends and then press them down with the top stitch from the face side. I'll do it in a rectangular shape, partly stitching in the ditch at the bottom and then just making sure I press down all those overlocked seam allowances. This part is done. Now I connect the shoulder seams and continue to the collar. I quite often design collars on the go. I just measure the circumference of my neckline and then I draw it right away on the fabric. For the sake of this example, let's say that the collar will start right after the button stand. But again, this is not the rule. If you search for polo necklines online, you'll see different designs. Sometimes the collar is closer, so it's kind of inside the button stand. Sometimes it's a bit further. That's, again, it's up to you. You decide where you position your collar. And I'm making this collar super quick from one piece. I will interface it, stitch the sides, and then top stitch the perimeter and iron, of course. And then I connect it to the neckline. I start from the middle of the back, so middle of the collar to the middle of the back, and then I pin it to the front and then evenly spread it along the neckline. And as for my button stands, I fold them open, wrong side up to the right side, this way. And now I will put one continuous stitch to close up the tops of my button stands and connect the collar to the neckline. And now I want to cover all that mess around the neckline with the bias tape. In general, for jersey, you don't have to cut your bias tape on the bias on 45 degrees. You can cut it straight along the stretch. That's enough. The purpose of cutting bias tape on the bias for woven fabrics is because we want to get the stretch, but jersey fabric stretches anyway. The only reason I'm cutting it at the angle here is because of the shape of this offcut, and that this way I definitely get the length I need for the neckline. And then I just stitch the tape to the top of my neckline. After it's done, I'll cut off the extra seam allowances very carefully to reduce the bulk. And then I fold it under the seam allowances and press everything down. The ends of the bias tape will be hiding in the button stands, so it's a really nice and clean finish. And I stitch it to the garment. And the last step is to finish the button stands. I pin them from the ditch on the right side to make sure that I catch them on the wrong side, and then just stitch in the ditch from the right side, and you're done. The only thing left is the buttonholes and the buttons. And this was the basic idea behind making the polo neckline with a collar. Try it out and see what you can adjust or maybe improve for yourself. This is not the way, okay? It's a way. My goal is to show you the basic principles behind making something so that you can take the base, go and try it out, find what works, what doesn't work for you, and develop your own way, the one that works for your designs, for your flow, for your way of making. And the only secret to learn how to make something is by making it. Watching a video is not enough. You have to get your hands dirty, you have to try it out. Make mistakes, make adjustments that you see fit, and develop the way that works for you. This will be the right way for you. And if you've seen this video where I was making 4 tops using different jersey fabrics, you remember that I told you that I love batching. I don't particularly enjoy the sewing part of clothes making, so if I can maximize my time, I always will. For example, I will plan a few garments ahead, and then I will group them by the fabric type, woven or knit, and then by the thread color I need to use, and I will try and put together as many projects into this thread, into this type of needle as possible to avoid changing threads and needles. And here I batched again, as well as this dress. I also made a polo shirt for Andrew and a sleeveless top for myself, all with the polo necks from the same fabric. This is the dress, and what are my thoughts about wearing it? It's a super dress for summer. Many people think that darker colors make the garments too hot, but it's only partly true. Yes, indeed, darker fabrics kind of attract more heat, but the secret to staying cooler in the heat is not the fabric color, it's the distance that you have from your body. So here I have plenty of space between the dress and my body, so it's never too hot. Overall, I'm in love with the fabric. I love this dress. It's one of those quick and easy outfits. Just put it on and I'm ready to go. I really hope it was helpful, and if so, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Stay creative, and I'll see you next time.